Good afternoon, students. We're looking at Chapter 1 this week, all about family. And we always start out with, what is family? And I know I asked you that in class last week, and each of you wrote your own definitions. According to the federal government, they have a particular definition that they use, and it is any two or more persons related by birth, marriage, or adoption who live together as a group. So you might think, well, now wait a minute, that might leave something out. Well, what about a couple that is not married but live together? What about grandparents in the home? What about the cat? What about the dog? And I think we can boil it down to family to us is basically what we feel makes a family for us. And I think everyone would agree that it is a family that loves and takes care of each other. That's the ideal situation for family, and one that we would hope young children are a part of, a loving family where each member respects the other. And I think sometimes, too, that family may not be a family where there is particularly a blood relation. So we kind of all have different definitions. But for the sake of this book, we will be referring to family as basically the federal definition that's used. All right, let's take a look at, real quick, the theories, because most of your Chapter 1 is on theory. We talk about Bronfenbrenner, his concentric circles theory, and there are some terms I know I ask you to do something with them on your assignment. So real quick, let's take a look. Micro, that is the smallest unit. This represents the child, and in those circles, the child is in the very center. Then we have meso. That means the relation between those children and family members. The interrelation of the two is mesosystem. Meso means middle. Then we have exo. Exo in Greek means outside of. Okay, so this system might be the influences outside of the child's immediate circle. For instance, a parent's workplace, something outside the circle, but can also influence that child. Then we have macro. This is the one that means a child's culture, values, and beliefs within that family. We definitely know that the culture macro system definitely affects the children. And then the very largest circle in his model is chrono. Chrono means time. Some watches, you can put it in chronological order. It just simply means time. For us, it could be the year 2021, future 2022, 2023. That represents the time period in which the child lives and in which we live. Okay, real quick, we'll take a look at Vygotsky. You've all heard of him already, I would imagine, because we talk about him in pretty near every course that we teach. He believed that children learn best within sociocultural aspects. For instance, the child learns from the family members, the child learns from siblings, the child learns from others. It can be many different others, but the child learns best within a sociocultural context. And the child's culture and family and relationships all affect that child. There's another one mentioned, it's family systems theory. It was by Olson, and it's kind of a simple theory in a way, because it simply says what happens to you affects everybody else around you. What happens to a family, whatever member it is, child, parent, sibling, grandparent, they all are interconnected, and that all affects each other. So what one family member does doesn't just mean that one family member, it affects everybody. Then it mentions, as part of that, the circumplex model. And I just want to bring out three things, kind of the definitions that this model is used a lot of times in family therapy groups, individual therapy, because they want to know the dynamics of the family, where there might be issues or where there might be problems. And so they usually use this circumplex model. And they take a look at cohesion. Okay, what are the feelings for these family members? How do they feel about one another? Then there is flexibility. Can this family adapt to varying situations, whether they're large situations like a pandemic or small situations? How are they flexible? Can one member change the role? Can they do something different within the family that maybe the other person usually did? Flexibility. And then we have communication. You know, a lot of times we say communication is one of the most difficult. And it's usually when communication breaks down that families begin to have problems, because when they're not communicating, what are they doing? They're making assumptions. And a lot of times those assumptions aren't based on truth. So there has to be this communication going on. All right, finally, your chapter really gets into the program standards for NACCE in regards to developmentally appropriate practice. In every textbook we have, you'll see these standards, and your chapter kind of talks about them and lists those standards. It's basically, how do you work with families? If you've never done it, how do you learn to do it? How do you do it right? What is your guide? And the program standards for families is the basic guide. First of all, you've got to realize that you've got to be in partnership with parents. I mean, the parents come with it, okay? When you're working with young children, you can't leave them at home, leave them and not have them be a part of that child's life. It just doesn't work that way. It has to be a partnership where you work with the family, no matter what that family may believe, whatever their culture, whatever their general beliefs, okay, in regards to even a child's schooling. So you have to become a partner. Basically, too, you have to respect that family, their culture, and their values. Okay, I think that's about it for today. And we'll take a look at Chapter 2 about diversity next week. Thank you very much.